My wife texted, "I'm done. My parents think I deserve better." I replied, "Then go." That afternoon, her parents received a document they never expected to see with details they definitely didn't want explained. Minutes later, my phone rang. The voice on the other end wasn't hers. I'm 36, and I've been married for 8 years. We met in our late 20s, got married after 2 years of dating, and for a while, everything seemed fine. Normal. We had our routines, our arguments, our good days and bad days. But about 2 years ago, things started shifting. She became distant, critical, always comparing me to other husbands, other marriages, other lives that looked shinier from the outside. Her parents never liked me, not from day one. I wasn't successful enough, didn't come from the right background, didn't have the right pedigree. Her father made it clear at our wedding reception that he thought she was settling. Her mother would make passive-aggressive comments about how I provided for their daughter, always with air quotes in her tone. Every family dinner became a subtle interrogation about my career, my earnings, my plans for elevating myself to their standards. The text came on a Tuesday morning. I was sitting in my home office finishing up some work when my phone buzzed. "I'm done. My parents think I deserve better." No preamble, no explanation, just that. I stared at it for a minute. Part of me wanted to call immediately, to ask what happened, to try and fix whatever was broken. But another part of me, the part that had been carrying the weight of her resentment and her parents' judgment for years, just felt tired, exhausted actually, like I'd been holding my breath underwater for months, and finally, someone was giving me permission to surface. I typed back 2 words. "Then go." She didn't respond, not for hours. What she didn't know, what her parents definitely didn't know, was that I'd been keeping records. Not because I was paranoid or controlling, but because about 6 months ago, I started noticing things. Money disappearing from our joint account, charges I didn't recognize, her coming home late smelling like cologne that wasn't mine, long phone calls she'd take in the other room, closing doors when I walked by. When I asked about any of it, she'd get defensive, accuse me of not trusting her, turn it around on me like I was the crazy one. So I started documenting. Bank statements, credit card records, text message timestamps, receipts I'd find crumpled in her purse or coat pockets. I even hired someone to follow her for 2 weeks in March. I know how that sounds, but I needed to know the truth. I needed to know if I was losing my mind or if my gut was right. And the truth was worse than I thought. She'd been having an affair for almost a year, with her boss, a married man with 3 kids, who she'd introduced me to at a company party once, shaking my hand while smiling like we were all friends. She'd been using our joint account to pay for hotel rooms, expensive dinners, weekend trips she claimed were work conferences or team-building retreats. She'd spent over $30,000 of our money on this affair. Money we'd been saving for a house, money I'd been contributing to while working 60-hour weeks, skipping lunches, saying no to things I wanted because we had goals. I had everything. Photos of them together taken by the investigator I'd hired, bank records showing charges at hotels on nights. She said she was working late. Hotel receipts with both their names on the registration. Text messages I'd recovered from a cloud backup she didn't know I had access to. Messages where they talked about leaving their spouses, planning a future together, laughing about how clueless I was. One message said, "He actually believed I was at a training seminar. God, he's so naive." After her text, I sat there for about an hour, just staring at my computer screen. Then I did something I'd been preparing for weeks, something I'd been building toward every time I added another document to the folder labeled Evidence. I compiled everything into a single PDF document, every receipt, every photo, every text exchange, every bank statement with highlighted charges. I organized it chronologically with a table of contents. Professional, thorough, undeniable. It was 127 pages long. Then I sent it to 3 email addresses. her parents, her older brother, and her boss's wife. The email subject line was simple: "The truth about your daughter, sister, husband." The body of the email was even simpler. "Attached is documented evidence of a year-long affair. All transactions were made using funds from our joint marital account. I thought you should know who you're defending." I hit send at 2:47 p.m. At 3:23 p.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Hello? Is this really true?" A man's voice, older, shaking with rage. Her father. Every word, every receipt, every photo. It's all documented and dated. "She said you were controlling, that you didn't trust her, that you were emotionally abusive, that you monitored her every move and made her feel like a prisoner." I laughed. Actually laughed. I'm sure she did. Did she mention the $30,000? Or the married man with 3 kids? Or the hotel rooms she booked on our anniversary? Silence. Then, "We need to talk, in person. This is a family matter." "No, we don't. You made it clear years ago what you thought of me. Your daughter made her choice. I'm just making sure everyone knows the truth before she rewrites history and makes me the villain." "You son of a—" I hung up. 10 minutes later, she called, screaming, crying, hysterical. "What did you do? My parents are losing it. His wife is calling me non-stop. You ruined everything. You've destroyed my life." I sent them the truth, that's all. "You had no right. I had every right. You want to leave? Fine. But you don't get to paint me as the villain while you've been stealing from me and cheating for a year. You don't get to lie about who I am." "It wasn't like that. You don't understand." "It's exactly like that. It's documented. Every lie, every hotel, every dollar. You want it out? Congratulations. You're out, but everyone gets to know why." She hung up, called back immediately. I declined. She called 17 more times in the next hour. I blocked her number. Update 1. The next 48 hours were absolute chaos. Her mother showed up at my house at 7 a.m. the next morning, banging on the door, screaming about how I was destroying their family, how I was a vindictive monster, how they'd sue me for defamation. I didn't answer. I just stood in the hallway, listening to her shriek, and called the police. They arrived within 15 minutes and filed a report for harassment. They escorted her off the property and warned her not to come back. Her brother called me that afternoon. Unlike her parents, he was surprisingly calm, almost eerily calm. "Look, I'm not calling to yell, Is it all true?" "Every word." "Jesus, I had no idea. She told us you were the problem, that you were controlling her money, isolating her from friends, checking her phone, making her account for every minute of her day. Mom and Dad believed her completely. They were ready to help her escape you. And now? Now they're humiliated. Dad's business partners got wind of it somehow. Someone forwarded the email, I think. Mom's friend group is talking. The country club is buzzing. They're more worried about their reputation than what she actually did to you. Sounds about right? For what it's worth, I'm sorry. You didn't deserve this. Any of it. Thanks. She's staying with them right now. Dad wants to hire a lawyer, try to protect her in the divorce. He's talking about arguing that you invaded her privacy or something. Good luck with that. I've already filed. My lawyer has everything. Joint account means joint access. Marital property means I had every right to those records. Her boss's wife reached out to me 3 days after I sent the email. She wanted to meet. We met at a coffee shop on neutral ground, far from both our neighborhoods. She was younger than I expected. Tired. Dark circles under her eyes. She'd been crying. I could tell from the redness, the puffiness. "Thank you for sending that," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I suspected something for months, but he kept denying it. Called me paranoid, jealous, insecure. Said I was imagining things because I was home with the kids all day and had too much time to think. Now I have proof." I'm sorry you had to see it like that. I couldn't let them rewrite what happened. Don't be sorry. I needed to see it. We have 3 kids. I was going to keep trying to make it work. Keep pretending everything was fine. Now I know I can't. Now I know I shouldn't. We talked for over an hour, compared notes, shared details. Her husband had been lying to her the same way my wife had been lying to me. Late nights at the office, business trips that seemed excessive. Missing money, he claimed, was for client dinners. She'd even found a receipt once for lingerie she'd never received, and he'd told her it was a mistaken charge. She told me she was filing for divorce too, and that she was going to make sure it wasn't quiet. She wanted everyone to know what kind of man he was. Update 2. 2 weeks later, her boss got fired. Turns out, having an affair with a subordinate and using company resources to facilitate it. Company credit cards for hotels, company time for personal trips, company vehicles for weekend getaways, was a violation of about a dozen corporate policies. His wife made sure HR got a copy of everything. Every receipt, every text message, every piece of evidence. The company moved fast. They didn't want the liability. They didn't want the scandal. He was escorted out of the building by security on a Thursday afternoon, his personal items in a cardboard box. My wife tried to play the victim at work, told HR that she was coerced, manipulated, that he had power over her, and she felt like she couldn't say no. She cried during the meeting, apparently, claimed she was afraid of losing her job if she didn't comply with his advances. But the text messages told a different story. Messages where she initiated contact, where she sent explicit photos, where she laughed about his wife, calling her clueless and boring, where she talked about how much money they'd have once they both left their spouses and started fresh. HR reviewed everything. They brought in their legal team, and then they eliminated her position, not fired outright, probably to avoid a wrongful termination lawsuit, but they made it clear she needed to go. She was escorted out the same day he was, just 3 hours later. Her parents tried to intervene in the divorce, hired an expensive lawyer who tried to argue that I'd violated her privacy by accessing her accounts and messages, that I'd hired someone to stalk her, that I was engaging in harassment by sending that email to her family. My lawyer shut that down immediately. Joint account, joint assets, marital communications, all perfectly legal. The investigator I'd hired operated within legal boundaries. No trespassing, no wiretapping, just observation in public spaces. And the email? Truth isn't defamation. They tried to argue she deserved half of everything. My lawyer pointed out the $30,000 she'd spent on her affair and asked if they really wanted to go to trial, where all of that would become public record, where their friends and colleagues could sit in a courtroom and hear every detail. They dropped that argument fast. She moved back in with her parents, started posting vague things on social media about toxic relationships and narcissistic abuse and escaping manipulation. I didn't respond, didn't engage. My lawyer advised me to document everything but say nothing publicly. Screenshot every post, every comment, but don't give her ammunition. Her friends started reaching out to me. Apparently, she'd been telling them for months that I was the problem, that I was cold, distant, unsupportive, that I didn't appreciate her, that I took her for granted. When they found out the truth, several of them apologized to me. One of them told me she'd suspected something was off, but didn't want to get involved. Another said she'd noticed changes in my wife's behavior, but assumed it was stress from work. Her parents stopped contacting me after their lawyer bills started piling up. Turns out, fighting a divorce when the other side has documented evidence of infidelity and financial misconduct is expensive and pointless. Their lawyer apparently told them they had no case and were wasting their money. Update 3. The divorce was finalized 4 months after that text message. She got almost nothing. The judge wasn't sympathetic to someone who'd drained marital assets for an affair. I kept the house. I kept my retirement accounts. I kept the car we'd bought together. She got her personal belongings and her car, which she was still making payments on and could barely afford. Her boss's wife's divorce went through around the same time. She got full custody of the kids, the house, and a substantial settlement. The judge in her case wasn't sympathetic either. Last I heard, he was living in a one-bedroom apartment across town and working at a smaller firm for half his previous salary. His kids refused to see him. My ex tried to reach out a few months after everything was finalized. She sent me an email, long, rambling, full of apologies and excuses. She said she'd made mistakes, that she'd been confused, that her parents had pressured her to find someone better, and she'd tried to prove them right. She said therapy had helped her realize what she'd thrown away. She said she missed me, missed us, that she wanted to try again, that she'd do anything to make it right. I didn't respond. 2 weeks later, she sent another email. This one was different, angry, bitter, accusing me of being vindictive, of destroying her life, of refusing to forgive when forgiveness was the mature thing to do. She said I'd always been cold, that I'd never really loved her, that this proved she was right to look elsewhere. I blocked that email address too. Her brother reached out a few months ago. We got coffee at a place downtown, away from anywhere we might run into family. He told me she'd moved to another city, about 3 hours away, working retail at a department store, living with a roommate in a small apartment, struggling to pay bills. Her parents barely spoke to her anymore. The scandal had damaged their reputation in their social circles. People they'd known for decades were suddenly unavailable. Invitations dried up, business deals fell through. Her mother blamed her for embarrassing the family. Her father refused to help her financially anymore, said she'd made her bed and needed to lie in it. "She asks about you sometimes," he said, stirring his coffee absently. "What do you tell her? That you've moved on? That you're doing well? That you seem happy?" "Am I?" He shrugged. "Are you? Honestly? Yeah, I was starting to be." Update 4. About 6 months after the divorce was finalized, something unexpected happened. Her boss's ex-wife reached out and asked if I wanted to meet for dinner. Not coffee this time. Dinner. I wasn't sure what to make of it at first. We'd stayed in touch sporadically, mostly just checking in, sharing updates about how our respective divorces were progressing. But this felt different. We met at a quiet restaurant. She looked better than the last time I'd seen her, healthier. The dark circles were gone. She was smiling. "I wanted to thank you again," she said over appetizers. "For sending that email. I know it wasn't easy. It needed to be done." It did. And it changed everything for me. I stopped doubting myself, stopped wondering if I was crazy. I got therapy, got a lawyer, got my life back. We talked for hours, about the divorces, about moving forward, about how strange it was to rebuild your life at this age, when you thought everything was settled. She told me her ex had tried to reconcile, sent flowers, showed up at her house, begged her to give him another chance for the kids' sake. She'd told him to leave and threatened a restraining order if he came back. "The kids are doing okay," she said. "Better than I expected. They're angry at him, which breaks my heart, but they understand why we couldn't stay together." I told her about my life, about selling some investments I'd been sitting on and using the money to travel, about reconnecting with old friends I'd lost touch with during the marriage, about feeling like myself again for the first time in years. "You seem different," she said. "Lighter." "I feel lighter." We started seeing each other after that, casually at first. Coffee dates, dinners, long walks, nothing rushed. We both knew what it was like to have a marriage implode, and neither of us wanted to complicate things. But it felt right. Easy, like we understood each other in a way most people couldn't. Update 5. 8 months after the divorce, I got a call from her brother again. He sounded uncomfortable. "Look, I probably shouldn't tell you this, but I thought you'd want to know. She's been trying to contact your family." "What do you mean?" "She found your mom on social media, started messaging her, saying she made a mistake, That she wants you back. That she's changed. Mom hasn't responded, has she? No. I would have heard about it. Good. Just be careful. She's not stable right now. She lost another job last month. Got into it with her manager over scheduling. She's drinking a lot. Staying out late. Mom and Dad are worried she's going to do something stupid. That's not my problem anymore. I know. I just thought you should know. A week later, she showed up at my house. I was out with friends, but my security camera caught it all. Her banging on the door, yelling my name, crying on the front steps. She stayed for almost an hour before finally leaving. I called the police and filed another harassment report. They went to her parents' house and warned her that if she came back, she'd be arrested for trespassing. Her parents called me the next day. Her father, actually. First time I'd heard from him since that initial phone call. You need to talk to her, he said. No greeting, no preamble. No, I don't. She's falling apart. She needs closure. She had closure. The divorce was finalized months ago. What she needs is therapy and to leave me alone. You're being cruel. I'm being smart. She made her choices. I'm living with mine. Tell her to stop contacting me, stop contacting my family, and move on with her life. She still loves you. No, she doesn't. She loves the idea of not being alone. There's a difference. I hung up. Hot Dish 6. A year after that text message, almost to the day, I was sitting in my backyard with the woman I'd been seeing, the one who'd been married to my ex-wife's boss. We'd gotten serious, moved in together, blended our lives in a way that felt natural and unforced. Her kids came over every other weekend. They were good kids, a little wary of me at first, which I understood, but they warmed up. We played board games, watched movies. I taught the oldest one how to change a tire. Life felt normal, better than normal. It felt peaceful. My phone rang. Her brother again. I wanted you to hear this from me, he said. She's getting married. I blinked. What? Met some guy online a few months ago. They're getting married next month. Quick engagement. Mom and Dad are freaking out, think she's rushing into it, but she's not listening. Good for her, I guess. I thought you'd want to know, in case she tries to reach out or... I don't know. I just thought you should know. Thanks for telling me. After I hung up, my girlfriend asked what that was about. I told her. She laughed. Think she's actually happy? I doubt it, but that's not my problem anymore. Does it bother you? Not even a little bit. And I meant it. The woman I'd been married to felt like a stranger now, someone I'd known in another life. The anger was gone. The hurt was gone. There was just nothing. A few weeks later, her brother sent me a photo, a wedding announcement. She'd changed her name on social media, posted photos of a small ceremony. The guy looked significantly older, had money based on the venue and her dress. She looked happy in the photos, but there was something in her eyes, something hollow. I showed it to my girlfriend. She studied it for a moment. You dodged a bullet, she said. Yeah, I really did. Final update. It's been almost 2 years now since that text message. Since I'm done. My parents think I deserve better. I'm engaged. To the woman who understood what it was like to have everything fall apart and have to rebuild from scratch. We're planning a small wedding, just close friends and family. Her kids are excited. They asked if they could call me by a nickname instead of my first name. I said yes. I still live in the same house, but it's completely different now. New furniture, new paint, new memories. The ghosts are gone. My ex, from what I hear through her brother, is already having problems in her new marriage. The guy she married turned out to be controlling, ironically. Monitors her phone, questions where she goes. She complained to her parents about it, and her father apparently said, "You made your bed." Her parents never apologized to me. I didn't expect them to. People like that don't apologize. They just quietly revise history and pretend they weren't wrong. Her boss, her former affair partner, lost custody of his kids entirely last year. The judge ruled that his behavior demonstrated poor judgment and moral character. He sees them once a month, supervised visits only. I don't think about my ex often anymore. When I do, it's not with anger or sadness or even satisfaction, just indifference. She's a character in a story that ended a long time ago. People still ask me sometimes if I regret how I handled it, if I think I went too far by sending that document to everyone, if I should have just quietly filed for divorce and moved on. I don't regret it. Not for a second. She wanted to leave. She wanted everyone to think I was the problem. She wanted to rewrite our entire marriage as my failure while she played the victim and rode off into the sunset with her boss. I just made sure the truth came out before she could bury it. Some people think that makes me vindictive, cold, cruel even. Maybe they're right. But I'd rather be cold than be a doormat. I'd rather be vindictive than be lied about. I'd rather face the truth head-on than live in a comfortable fiction. She made her choices. I just made sure she lived with the consequences. And honestly, I've never been happier. I wake up next to someone who values honesty, who doesn't play games, who doesn't weaponize her parents against me, who looks at me like I'm enough exactly as I am. That text message, "I'm done. My parents think I deserve better," was the best thing that ever happened to me. It freed me from a marriage that was slowly killing me, from in-laws who saw me as beneath them, from a woman who never really loved me, just loved what I could provide. So, yeah. I sent that document. I exposed the affair. I made sure everyone knew the truth, and I'd do it again in a heartbeat.